Giving Iran a nuclear weapon is like handing a loaded gun to a violent felon. That's not my metaphor, it's God Saad's. And in this clip, he explains exactly why Iran's regime must never hold the power to end the world.
Hi everybody, this is Gad Saad. Hope that you're doing well. Just returned from a trip from Michigan where I was speaking at 3 Northwood University events. A wonderful trip. In any case, while I was away, the news came out that Israel had attacked various Iranian nuclear sites and also taken out some of their top military brass and some nuclear scientists who were, key figures in the development of a nuclear weapon for Iran. And so I been going back and forth with some people on social media, or in some cases just watching what people were saying. And I thought I would offer some of my own insights to this unfolding reality. Iran, as you know, was taken over by the Islamic regime under Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979. Prior to that, while of course Iran was hardly a democracy, it was certainly a lot more secular and modern, and that if you look, for example, at images of how women dressed and so on, they're dressed very differently from how they've been dressing over the past nearly 5 decades. And as many of you who are aware of the Iranian reality, many people in Iran have not been happy with the Islamic regime. And so certainly within the context of their own country, many people are desperate to get out of the grip of the Islamic regime. So that's issue one. Secondly, the Iranian regime has repeatedly said over and over and over again that they have to ultimately, if able to do so, get rid of the great Satan, meaning the United States, death to America, and little Satan, Israel. And that is a fundamental premise of their outlook on life. The only reason why they haven't done it is because they can't do it. But it's certainly not because they don't have the desire or the willingness to do it if they were able to actually do it. For many, many years, there have been endless number of diplomatic attempts to ensure that Iran does not develop a nuclear weapon. And all of these have failed. And so, as often happens in life, there's a tipping point where you have to act. You're too fat, you're going to die of a heart attack, so you decide this is the day where I'm going to start taking care of my blood pressure, of my elevated cholesterol score, whatever it may be. And so Israel decided that it was time to finally act. As you of course know, Iran is the state-sponsored the state-sponsored terrorism comes largely from Iran, whether it be Hezbollah, to some extent Hamas, and so on and so forth. They have all of their proxies in my home country of Lebanon. And so one can simply ask the question, has the Iranian regime over the past nearly 50 years been a force for good or not? Would it be better if the world had an Iran that was more secular and modern, or a world where within the eschatology of the Iranian regime, they welcome an end of times battle? They've said it. It's literally part of their Shia doctrines. And so it doesn't take a profoundly astute student of Iran to understand that this is a regime that most sane people in the world would say is probably the cause, not probably, is the cause of incredible instability. They have been responsible for the death of many Westerners, including many Americans. And so from that perspective, the fact that Israel decides to now go in and first try to get rid of the nuclear weapons and possibly put pressure on the Iranian regime to be ultimately toppled is maybe a good thing for the world, right? Now let me address some of the concerns that I've heard from some of my American quote friends. And I use that term very loosely. So some libertarians who are very much also isolationists say, here are the Jews who are again bringing us into an unnecessary war. Well, first of all, right now the United States is not directly involved in that battle. I mean, you could argue that, of course, the United States gives a lot of funding to Israel, so in that sense they are involved. But the actual fighting, the actual hitting of those targets doesn't involve directly the United States. Isolationism is fine unless you're dealing with someone who would be perfectly happy to get rid of you if they were able to do so. So the Iranian regime has repeatedly stated for nearly 50 years that it is a fundamental objective of theirs to destroy the United States. So for most sane people, they would say, hey, if we can get rid of that enemy who either directly or indirectly has been the cause of many threats to us meaning the United States, then you would think that that is certainly a good objective to pursue, namely to topple that regime. So the idea that you should be isolationist, well, nobody's asking the United States to go in with boots on the ground to fight the Iranians in Tehran, right? Okay, so that's number one. Number two, people say, well, why is it that the fucking Jews can have a nuclear weapon, but not the Iranians, right? I mean, exactly. I mean, why does a chef use a knife, and why can't a serial killer have the knife? That's probably not a good analogy. Let's draw another one. I mean, my 8-year-old son wore a clown suit, so why can't John Wayne Gacy wear a clown suit? I mean, why is it that the 8-year-old can wear a clown suit and not the serial killer of young boys who used to dress in a clown suit?
Do you see how simple this is and how confused intelligent people get? What is hard to understand? It's not a matter of permission that everyone has the right to have a nuclear weapon. For some people, they make the world safer with nuclear power. They actually make the world a lot more productive with nuclear power. And others make the world critically dangerous. There are certain people that cannot have a gun because they kill people with it. It's that simple. That's why we check people before they get a gun license. And other people can. That's the way the world must work.
I mean, surely we understand that Israel having nuclear weapons doesn't pose the same threat to the world as Iran having nuclear weapons. And from Israel's perspective, given the fact that Iran has said that their number one objective is to annihilate the Zionist entity, the cancer, then it probably is not difficult to understand why they might want to get rid of those nuclear capabilities. Right? And then you have other people saying this is a manifestation of the Zionist project of expansion. I mean, it is difficult to imagine someone being so idiotic. And yes, that is anti-Semitic, because to say was this the optimal strategy to take out the Iranian nuclear sites now, that's perfectly fine. You're debating actual cause. But when you start hallucinating about illusory realities only because it is related to Israel, the Jewish state, then that tends to suggest that you have dark impulses in your heart, right? Israel gave back the entire Sinai to Egypt on the condition that Egypt signs a peace treaty, which they ended up signing in the Camp David Accords in 1978 with Anwar Sadat. Right? If they were an expansionist Zionist project that's meant to take over the entire Middle East, would they have given up a region that would have made their country an astoundingly larger country? When they gave up the Golan Heights to Syria, would that have been a measure of expansionism? So in what world would it make sense for them to be attacking the nuclear facilities all around Iran, and that is just some frivolous war that the Zionists are engaging in because they want to expand their territory. But between Israel and Iran, there are many other countries. Explain to me geographically, for those of you who know mathematics, the four color problem, how to color the map of the world such that no two countries share the same color. How do we get from Israel to Iran as an expansionist, a territorial expansionist project, while skipping all the countries in between? So what kind of talk is that, to think that? Iran cannot have nuclear weapons for the same reasons that felons are not allowed to purchase automatic weapons, because a law-abiding person is allowed to have a gun. A felon is not allowed to have a gun. Both of these people are human beings. One of them, because of their status as a felon, can't have a gun. So France can have nuclear weapons. Britain can have nuclear weapons. Israel can have nuclear weapons. United States can have nuclear weapons, because we recognize that those countries do not share the same outlook on the world as, say, Iran. It's not that there is anything dispositional about Iranian people that makes them incapable of having weapons. It's the Iranian regime that has a very clear objective, and that is to destroy Great Satan and Little Satan if they had the possibility to do so. So do you not think, for all of you libertarian isolationists, if Iran had the capacity to create a dirty nuclear bomb or a ballistic nuclear bomb, would that make Americans feel safer? Would that add to the likelihood of the national security of the United States, or would it hinder it? So stop saying things like Zionist and the Jews and so on. Just look at it using Occam's razor. Try to rise to the occasion. Okay? If France right now were to take, had it not been Israel who did what they did, but it was France, would you have said the same kind of venom? The French expansionist colonialist project? No, you would probably say that the French decided that for whatever reason it was imminent for them to take out the nuclear capabilities of Iran. This is exactly what's happening with Israel. If Israel had the assuredness that, Iran would never cause them any threats, they might have a different perspective on the issue. But the reality is, as I've repeatedly said, this is their central mission in life. By the way, I've interacted with tons of Iranian students, many of whom come here to do, graduate degrees and so on. They will tell me how much they despise the Islamic regime. Very educated people, very sophisticated people with an incredibly rich heritage, with an incredibly rich culture that predates Islam by thousands of years. So from the perspective of, does the removal of this Iranian regime and their capacity for having nuclear weapons, does that add to world security, or does it make the world more dangerous by not granting Iran a nuclear weapon? That's it. Forget about Zionism and the Jews. That's the key metric. Have a good day, everybody.
The point is that very often everyone's always looking at the hidden secret agenda that Israel has for why they want to attack Iran. Can we keep this simple without always believing that there's some devious, evil, dark, secret reason why Israel is doing what it's doing? Maybe it actually is very simple. And in general, this should be an approach that people should start taking when they look at what's going on in the Middle East. Let's just look at things very simply. Don't interpret why Israel is doing what they're doing, and don't interpret why the Palestinians are doing what they're doing. Just look at things face value. There's a country, Israel. From their actions, it's clear that they're not trying to be expansionists. They've given back land multiple times and have offered enormous offers, which, in my opinion, are a big mistake, but they still offered it, right, to give back land. And look at the way the Palestinians are always responding to that, and just call it what it is. The reason why Israel wants to destroy Iran is because Iran very openly says, we want to destroy Israel. So Israel doesn't want to destroy Iran. They want to destroy their nuclear power. Everyone knows that Iran is the one who's feeding Hamas, who just created October 7th, and Hezbollah, who are constant threats to innocent lives. It's simple. So they just want to stop that. It's not complicated. It's not devious. There's no deep, dark, secret, hidden agenda.